Wolfson Archives collections are increasingly attracting attention from Florida artists. Now in process, a project by time-based media artist Barron Sherer that combines archival footage with newly shot film in an artwork that mixes digital and analog technology. This new work regards South Florida through twin tracks of historic images and lived experience, the view of an artist who has always seen the region through history's lens. We spoke to Barron Sherer in the darkroom at the Bakehouse Art Complex, where he's been processing analog footage for the project.
I moved to Miami from South Carolina about 30 years ago, but I moved here to work at Wolfson Archives. I left where I was to work with the collections. And so within a short period of time, I felt like I was a local because I was so adjacent to all this material. I had a favorite mayor, Mayor High. He was the mayor in 1960, but that's my experience, my adult life basically has been sort of contemplating representations and moving images of this community. I started interning preserving 35mm nitrate film and kind of fell in love, would just be the sort of how close you get to what you're working on. I was starting to see, even when I was young, sort of the possibilities for found footage. I didn't know that there was a whole history of that in sort of avant-garde and experimental cinema, but it's something that as long as cinema has been around, people have been thinking about how do you reuse what you have in front of you. So I just kind of went off in sort of that direction, and I had the good fortune of working at Wolfson Archives, for a long time as a researcher and a curator of programs. And the whole time, besides the important work of preservation, I was thinking about what other directions can you take this material? And an art practice evolved from that. I got the Ellie's grant, which I'm very excited about because I'm able to sort of work with a budget that I'm not quite used to make experimental cinema. I'm working right now with a string quartet to score the film, and I've also talked to local sort of post-punk synth bands, and they're all doing these variations of a piece of music, and I'm able to commission them for sort of original sounds for my movie, and these are things that just would not have been possible without support, so I'm really excited about that. The title of this artwork is Sun Fun Capital, and that's a bit of a play on the opening to the old Gleason show, Sun Fun Capital. And I think it's going to sort of incorporate a lot of the themes of the work in interesting ways. I think because that's sort of embedded, that title, that sort of spirit's embedded in a lot of the images of South Florida over the last 100 years in terms of being like a destination for sun and fun. Capital could mean capital as in real estate, or it could be this is a capital of sun and fun. There's a lot of kind of ways to play with that. The work's actually going to be kind of mysterious, and I don't think I'm going to cut it in such a way that it's so rote and that, this is my Lincoln Road sequence. It's all kind of nebulous, and the combination of the archival stuff and the contemporary stuff might make this new place, This work's going to have a lot of talking heads in it, which I don't normally do. It's very conscious because they're talking heads. Well, what are the talking heads talking about, and how much sort of representations are there about all the points of view that you could have on that topic? There's a sort of a visual record that's not complete, and you're going to see it. Well, basically I start out with like what a lot of traditional filmmakers do, and that's sort of approach the archive with a laundry list of images, specific things that I'd like to see, but that's kind of broad, and I do that at the front of the project. I may see things along the way that strike a fancy and send the work into a different direction. It's kind of malleable because the archival research that I do with you is actually the production of the film. It's an experimental movie that's sort of crafted in what's traditionally called post-production. What I see at the archive is going to inform what I do in the field. You know, with this grant that I got from Ulad Arts, the Ellie's Award, affords me the opportunity to sort of shoot with these legacy formats in similar ways to the material that you house at Wolfson.
It's standard for artists and other media makers to use images from the Wolfson Archives, but for this project, Barron Sherer is also adding images to the collections.
One of the sort of part of my process the past couple of years is how can I make projects that my raw material might be available to somebody else, like in the future, because I mean, I've benefited so greatly from somebody else doing that, and from, you know, work like the archive where you take care of that stuff. So it thrills me that they would actually be available for somebody else to use, kind of like, you know, the way I work. I collect analog and digital sources, make my edit digitally. I'll sort of have an artist proof. It's a composite of both visual channels on like a DCP, and that's my sort of my forever, as much as you can have a forever digital copy. Long term, I mean, I want this thing to sit in an archive, you know, for 1,000 years. I don't want a digital file. Some of the techniques that I'll employ in the project, I may do things like Google Maps or Google Earth juxtapositions with, you know, maybe Mayor High looking over a mock-up of what the North-South Expressway is going to look like. So they're contemporary sort of referrals to archival images. How do they relate? It could be, you know, I do a set of research with you based on a subject, and I sort of craft a sequence that could span over many decades. But it's all sort of sourced from archival material. If I need to go out and shoot something in a similar vein to fill it in, I mean, I have that option. I may do things like widescreen cinema. I might split it up across 2 screens because the work is a diptych. It's a 2-screen presentation. This is like an expanded cinema work, and it'll be on 16mm. So I'll project with 2 film projectors, but it's 2 channels. So you have a screen here and a screen here, and how do they interact? How do they complement each other? How do they, you know, fight with each other? It's all sort of part of the process that's exciting to me. I think it's intuitive, and it's actually not as difficult as you might think, because the audience is going to bring their experience. You know, I can present something, and then you can kind of finish the work. Do you know what I mean? With your experiences. It is intuitive because I've done it for so long. I think what I'm trying to do with this work is create like a dreamscape that's communal. You know, like we're all going to look at it and might not really have those experiences, but there's enough there with like the archival work and the archival images that it makes it communal. This project is happening because of my experiences at Wolfson Archive. Those years of research and me trying to think of how can I do these recontextualizations of this material that's very dear to me. I want to sort of explore things that might not get out into the world. I mean, there's kind of like a greatest hits in a lot of cases of the way people want to use and access materials at the archive. I'm trying to expand that with this project.
To keep up with Sun Fun Capital and other projects by artist Barron Sherer, follow him on Instagram. And if you're an artist who envisions archival images in your own work, contact the Wolfson Archives at info@wolfsonarchives.org.